everybody. My name is Christian, and I played at the Massing at Solist event. Unfortunately, I didn't get to take home any of the prizes. I won some and I lost some, and I did not get in the top four. So that's why there's going to be no video for today. But I did stick around to see the final game, and I got to see Wave 2 in action, and these are some of the impressions I have. So we'll start off with the Empire. The biggest deal for them, and a huge ship. I don't know if you've seen pictures of it, but the new Imperial class Star Destroyer. It's gigantic. It dwarfs the Victory. Whatever storage solutions you had, you probably need something larger because the Imperial Star Destroyer is absolutely huge. They come in two iterations, and it is just a souped up Victory Star Destroyer in every way. Um, so probably the biggest deal is that it goes up to speed 3, and it has the same maneuverability as a Rebel assault frigate. So it's at speed 2, it's one tick, and at speed 3, it's blank. One tick. So that is incredibly maneuverable for both variations of the Imperial Star Destroyer, and it's gonna be a lot harder to just avoid the front arc and just get around to. It's still weakened rear, but it's a big jump forward for compared to the Victory Star Destroyer. It has a life of 11 hull instead of the 8 hull that the Victory Star Destroyer is. And its front shields are 4, its two side shields are 3, and its back shield is 2. So that's stronger than the Victory, but pretty similar. It has the same defense tokens as the Victory Star Destroyer with the addition of the new containment. So it has 4 defense tokens, 2 redirects, 1 brace, and 1 containment, which if you instead of taking a face up damage, it's just a regular damage. Depending on the iteration, if you have a Victory 1 or a Victory 2, just depends on how nasty of a front arc it's going to be. The Victory 1, it's 3 red, 2 blue, and 3 black, while the Victory 2s are 4 red and 4 black. So either way, 8 dice coming at you. It's a pretty nasty thing to see. Engineering of 4, command of 3, squadron of 4 for the Imperial 2, and a squadron value of also 4 for the Imperial 1. Plenty of upgrades you can put onto it, including gunnery team, which I'm sure is going to be very, very common for them. Offensive, ion, turbo lasers. It's a great ship, and it's going to be an almost. I can't imagine an Imperial list without it. There's some good upgrades that come with this ship. The redundant shields is a little expensive, but it allows you to do 1 recharge of shield per turn. So it's essentially a engineering defense token every turn. So that's pretty good. The NK7 ion cannons, very expensive, and it's a disc. You can only use it once, but it takes away one of the defense tokens of your enemy if you get a blue critical. So that's a pretty big deal. One of the offensive retrofits that come in this pack, as well as some of the other, is boosted comms. This I think you're going to see a lot of play. Whenever you do an activate squadron prior to this, it would only be close to medium range. These boosted comms allow you to activate squadrons that are at far range. So I think that's for only 4 points. I think that's a pretty good deal. Um, the other offensive retrofit is a tractor beam, which lowers the speed of any ship that is either your size or smaller. I really wish it would actually be only smaller ships, because the fact that a Star Destroyer will be able to slow down the MC-80, or a Victory will be able to slow down an assault frigate, like, it really should be things that are at least one size smaller than it, but oh well. Um, so that's definitely going to be helpful if you're going against the new MC-30 scout and assault frigates for the rebels, as well as the good old-fashioned corvettes that were used to swarm around the Victory Star Destroyer. There's some good title cards. The Avenger is, while attacking, the defender cannot spend exhausted defense tokens. That's pretty good. Obviously, that's something that you would not want to use until other ships have already gone. One of the other title upgrades is the Devastator. Once per round, while attacking from your front hull zone, you may add one blue dice to your attack pool for each of your discarded defense tokens. Um, See, that's kind of that's kind of an expensive way of, like, it's discarded. It's not even spent, but it definitely has some synergy for other upgrade cards that encourage you to discard your defense tokens. But I like defense tokens keep you alive. But maybe if your shields are already down, but for 10 points, I wouldn't do it. Keeping your shields up is better. However, something that I think is going to be essentially an auto include is going to be the Relentless. The total number of command dials that must be assigned to your ship during command phase is reduced by 1. So instead of 3 command dials, you have 2 command dials. So not only does the Imperial Star Destroyer have the same speed as most Rebel ships, it now is is just as flexible with its moves as a Nebulon B. So for 3 points, I think that's a no-brainer. I don't see why you couldn't use it. Um, so the last there are 2 turbo laser new turbo laser upgrades. One of them is heavy turbo lasers. So while attacking, the brace defense token cannot reduce the damage total by more than 1 unless it's the only defense token spent during that attack. It's 6 points. To be honest, I think I'd rather just have an intel officer for 7 points, and then you just say that they can't use their brace. But I mean, I don't know. Like, this just first impressions. I obviously haven't played with it. Most people haven't, but um, I could definitely see it being used occasionally. The last turbo laser upgrade, slave turrets. This is a modification, so you can only have one of those per ship. You cannot attack more than once per round. While attacking, you add 1 red die to your pool. So essentially, if you're only attacking from one rear zone, or you're only attacking once, period, then you can go ahead and fire 1 extra red die. Um, I could see this being used more by other ships. I don't see this being used all that much by the Star Destroyer, because for 7 points you can have a gunnery team, and it's better to have a gunnery team and fire from your front zone twice than just to give yourself 1 extra red die. But I could see this being useful for the MC-80 on the rebel side. But we'll see the MC-80 and the MC-30, but I don't think I'll see it on the Imperial Star Destroyer. And the last upgrade card that comes with the Imperial deck is the Ruthless Strategist. After attacking a squadron, you may deal 1 damage to a friendly squadron engaged with with the defender. If you do, the defender suffers 1 damage. So essentially, for only 4 points, this is pretty decent. If there's like this really nasty um, rebel ship or a mirror imperial ship that you're just about to kill, sacrificing 1 life for a tie and being able to kill like a Han Solo or something like that would definitely be worth it, especially if it's before they get to take their turn. So I could see that being pretty useful. So overall, the Imperial Star Destroyer is amazing. It is physically huge. It's very impressive. It's going to be in essentially every Imperial build that I can possibly imagine. Oh, and one thing I forgot to talk about is the new commander that gets brought in, Darth Vader. While a friendly ship is attacking, it may spend 1 defense token, spend, not discard, so it just needs to flip it over like it has been used, to re-roll any number of dice in its attack pool. That's particularly useful once you start having larger and larger, when you have more and more dice being rolled at the same time. If you're an Imperial Star Destroyer, you're rolling 8 dice from your front arc. Maybe 3 of them are misses. Well, go ahead and re-roll them, all 3 of them, or 4 of them. It's a great power. It's pretty expensive. It's 36 points, so it's the second most expensive, being under Tarkin. But if you have a heavy hitter fleet, I could see this being a useful card. The other new Imperial ship is the Raider, which is essentially the fast ship that the Imperials haven't had yet. It goes up to speed 4, which is amazing in terms of the Imperials, since until recently they only had ships going up to speed 3, and before that it was only the Gladiator. It has 3 defense tokens, 2 evades, and a brace. It has only 4 health, and it has 2 shields in each of its hull zones. So it's small, it's relatively fragile, but it has a pretty good damage outfit with the 2 front black dice. And with its speed and maneuverability and using its evades, I think it's going to be able to stay alive relatively well, as long as you're smart and you keep them out of the main fight. These are mostly meant to be fighter defense ships, and further proof of that is the different title upgrades that come along with this ship. So to prove that this is meant to be an anti-fighter, this is Instigator. I think is going to be a pretty useful card. Enemy squadrons at distance 1 are treated as if they are engaged by 2 additional squadrons, even if they are not currently engaged. So essentially, even though your ship is a ship, it acts like a squadron and it locks them up in an engagement. And the reason it says engaged by 2 additional squadrons, some of the new heroes are not engaged if it's only with 1 squadron. So that locks down everything. And the other title upgrade, at the end of your attack step, choose one of your hull zones. You may perform attack against 1 enemy squadron from that hull zone, even if you already attacked from that hull zone. That's a great power. For only 4 points, especially if you think you're going to be coming across fighters, which is probably going to be more common now that Wave 2 is out and some of the heroes are really good. The fact that you could maybe attack another ship with the front arc and then go ahead and attack another fighter, or maybe you do a fighter anti-squadron roll, but you want to go ahead and do another one against that one hero that's being pesky. You want to kill him even more. So Both of those title cards are pretty cheap. They're pretty darn useful, and I think they're going to be seeing a lot of use. The new Admiral that comes with this deck, Admiral Hazel, I hope I pronounced that right. When a friendly ship resolves a navigate command, it may change its speed by an additional 1. So this kind of allows the trick that the rebels have been doing for a while with the navigate and a token of going from speed 1 to speed 3, or I guess from this ship from speed 2 to speed 4. Um, I mean, it's useful for 20 points. It's relatively cheap Admiral, but I don't see it being super useful unless you have like a you're made out of money and you have a whole fleet made from just raiders. But who knows? If you do have that Admiral, he would actually tie well with the next card I'm going to talk about, which is a officer card, even though it's also named an Admiral, but he doesn't play an Admiral. Admiral Montera Rat. Again, I don't know. I'm not familiar with him in the EU. While defending against a ship, if your speed is 3 or higher, your attack is treated as obstructed. So essentially, you get to reduce the number of die going at you by 1 if you're going at speed 3. So if you have a swarm, like for a long time, Imperial players have been having to deal with these Corvette storms. I could see some people being crazy enough to do a Raider storm. And if you are going to do a Raider storm, this would be a good upgrade to put on because, for 5 points, you're probably going to be taking away 1 red dice at the ones that are being shot at you. One of the new ion upgrades for this ship, since this ship has blue dice, is while attacking a ship, each of your unspent blue accuracy icons adds to 1 damage. That fun to the damage total. That's a good upgrade. That how often have you rolled, a few blue die and you get accuracies? You roll blues and reds together and you get blanks on the reds and you get accuracies on the blues, so you very accurately missed. It's very frustrating. So I could see this getting a lot of play on Star Destroyers that have 4 blue on their front arc, as well as the MC-80 cruiser, which is what the picture actually has. I think for 5 points, this is a pretty good upgrade. If you want, it turns it's a guaranteed hit essentially, since a blue dice has only criticals, hits, and accuracies. So by having this card, you essentially guarantee yourself a hit on every single one. You don't get the benefit of having that accuracy power as well, but if their shields are already down or their defense tokens are gone, then it's a guaranteed hit, and it's great. Quad laser turrets. This is definitely very cinematic. Definitely the kind of things that we've seen before. It's giving ships a better anti-fighter value. So, while defending at distance 1, if the attacker is a squadron, you may counter 1. So just like how A-wings and TIE interceptors can counter 2, now you just roll 1 dice back at them if they attack you. So, for a large ship that you think is going to be swarmed by a bunch of fighters, for 5 points, you can just keep on doing it over and over and over again. Ordnance experts, for 4 points, while attacking, you may re-roll any number of your black die. This ship, I could see that being useful. You only have up to 2 black die, but for the Gladiator, for 4 points, if you have a hit, go ahead and try again. Now, obviously, don't do this if you also have Darth Vader, since Darth Vader, you get to re-roll as many dice as you want anyway. But it's a good card if you don't have Darth Vader as your admiral, or if you don't have Screed as your admiral, because again, he can change one of the ship dies into a thing that it wants. And the last one is rapid reload. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's 8 points, so it's relatively expensive, and it gives you an extra black dice on both of its sides. So, definitely plenty of good cards for the Imperials coming out of the gate, and I think you're going to see the Raider being, somewhat common, not nearly as common as the Imperial Star Destroyer. That is going to be in every deck that you see from now on. So, the last part of Wave 2 for the Imperials are the new Rogues and Villains deck, which has 4 new, I not necessarily squadrons, but they're like, like, well, they're smaller vessels. They're like, I need to think of a good term. They're not frigates, either way, like the Millennium Falcon, Slave One, stuff like that. The first new one is Houndstooth. Has 4 black die against squadrons, a blue and a black against ships. It doesn't have bombers, so its criticals doesn't count. But I'll go ahead and say, first of all, these rogues and villains, if they have the rogue ability, that means unlike regular fighter squadrons that move or attack, these things go ahead and move and attack. So that definitely gives them a strong advantage if they have those keywords on them. So that's a good ship. The base version of it is also pretty good. A ship that's particularly amazing, though, is Slave 1, Bubba Fett's ship. When you activate, choose one enemy ship or squadron at distance 1. That ship or squadron suffers 1 damage. So no dice rolls, no, it's just, that's not even your attack. It's just that ship or that squadron takes damage. If it's the last health that it needs, then it's just gone. And on top of that, you get to go ahead and roll your dice anyway. You get 4 blue against squadrons, and you get a blue and a black, and it counts as a bomber. So it's, essentially the strongest bomber because even Raymer only had 1 black dice. So the fact that he has blue and a black one is definitely particularly helpful. Has 2 braces, is a rogue, a bomber. For 26 points, I think you're going to see a lot of them. For 18 points, the base version, Fire Spray 31, it has 3 anti-squadron dice. That's pretty good. And then 2 blue against ships. Again, that's better than the TIE bombers that they had before. 18 points is a little bit expensive, but think of this as the Imperial B-Wing, since it has 6 life and it goes even faster at speed 3. So I think you're going to see a lot of Slave 1s as well as people who buy multiple kits. You're going to see Fire Spray 31s as well. Then you have Punishing 1. It has 3 anti-blue squadron device, but it has Scatter. It makes the ships around it heavy. It uses Swarm. So this is he's not as much as an auto include as some of the other ones, but I could see him getting some play. And then IG-88. He ignores, escort, and counters. So essentially, he's like an assassin. He is an assassin droid, but for essentially this one, he gets to go after, pick his target, kill whoever he wants. He has a counter of 2 for himself, and he rolls with 4 anti-squadron dice, and he moves at speed 5. So I definitely think you're going to see plenty of IG-88s. He's definitely an air superiority kind of fighter. And that's it for the Imperial side of Wave 2. I'm really looking forward to an Imperial Star Destroyer. The Raider, somewhat, but maybe my attitude will change on the Raider. But the Imperial Star Destroyer is an amazing ship. I could see it working really well with maybe an Imperial Star Destroyer in the front, maybe flanked by each side by a Victory, or one side by a Victory and the other one by a Gladiator. 400 points are going to go by pretty quickly with Wave 2 with how expensive some of these ships are. So I'm talking about the cards that have been either leaked or been put on Fantasy Fight's website itself. So the game that I observed for the massing at Solist, and I'll go ahead and pop some of the pictures up from it. The Imperial player had to use at least one of the rogues and squadrons. At least you had to use an Imperial Star Destroyer, and you had to use a Raider. And the Imperial player in this game got completely destroyed, and they got destroyed by probably some miscalculations and having the Imperial Star Destroyer run ahead and leaving it just to be hammered by all the other ships that had Akbar on it. So they were rolling like 5, 6, 7 red dice at a time. So it was just hemorrhaging damage. But that's a good lesson to everyone out there. When you have the Imperial Star Destroyer, just because it can go at speed 3, that doesn't mean you should. If all your ships behind you are not caught up, you don't want your one ship versus 3 or 4 rebel ships for a turn or two before the rest of your fleet can catch up. And also, they were completely crippled by the new rebel pilot, Nim, who is on the ship Havoc. And his text ability is blue criticals. If the defender's a ship, you may choose and discard one of its defense tokens. So the person got that on their first roll and took away their brace. So from the rest of that time, they couldn't cut that damage in half. So when the MC80 and the MC30 just completely opened up on it, it just didn't have a chance. So even though these things, the Imperial Star Destroyers are really tough, don't get cocky, kid. They can be destroyed by if Akbar concentrates all fire on that Star Destroyer. So
have you yet figured out that we're dorks?
Definitely dorks. Great ship, but not invincible. And I'm definitely looking forward to Slave 1 being out on the battlefield too. When I'm an Imperial player, when I'm a Rebels, I'm gonna be pretty afraid of Slave 1. At least they didn't give him those sonic charges that he has in Empire at War. So that is the end of my first impressions with Wave 2. As soon as I get them in the mail, I'll go over it more and start playing some games and give you some more advice. So thank you, and that's the end of this video.